Okay, so hey, it's Janet, Breakaway Entrepreneur Podcast, among other things. I'm here with my super good friend, Earlene Coats. We are doing all sorts of new and creative things, and I was like, okay, so she had the audacity to move from right around the street from me, right around the corner from my house, to freaking Florida. Hurricane, here you come. I'm going to ask you about that too. But anyway, so we have decided, so for a while we didn't really, because you're settling in and there's always something going on. And I'm like, no, we got to keep this train on the track. So we're going to try to do like Fridays with just a glass of wine. I got my little my rosé all day. She's got hers, and just have a conversation about like the week and what's going on. And I have a couple of cool little scoops that I want to talk about today, but I just wanted to get on and do some live stuff and see if anybody out there had some questions. I don't even know how to see if they do, but you got my back.
I got your back on that one. I've got it handled, so I'm here ready to.
Do I see Cliff Morgan out there with a what do you call this? A thumbs up?
A thumbs up? You might.
There you go. He's over here on the right side of my screen. I don't know what that means because I'm just figuring it all out. But I guess my message is like, just try it. Like I don't mind that we look like we don't know what we're doing because we don't, but we're figuring it out.
I was going to say it's Friday afternoon. It's 4:00 in the Pacific time zone. It's 7:20 in the Eastern time zone. So, we're well into the evening time, and it's time to just have a little bit of fun, which I think that was kind of the theme for tonight, right?
Absolutely. And it's a holiday weekend. I got my USA. I got my, I don't know why I dug them out. I wore them today playing golf. I played golf with my sister and my nephew. I think I drove them crazy because they were like, what the hell are you doing wearing those on the golf? Well, my nephew, because he's a little bit of a purist, but he loves me and who cares? And then I have a little like 4th of July shirt on.
Nice.
So I am ready for the holiday. We are unmasked and we are out there and we are celebrating. And so before we get like to the holiday and what's coming up, what's been going on for you this last week, Earlene? Anything that you want to chat about?
This has actually been really kind of a cool week because I've had clients where meeting with them on how to even think about their virtual events. I have a good friend client who does yoga, and she's been sent, I helped her early on in the pandemic time frame go from the how do I do yoga and not be in person. So helped her do her initial workshops and sessions through Zoom. But we went through my course on how to create an unforgettable virtual event. And so she and I did a workshop on that and talking a little bit more about how do you go through those 5 steps. You start out with, what's your dream? What are you really thinking about from your outcome? Starting again with the Stephen Covey quote of start with the end in mind, and started talking a little bit about that. And it went through several things. Some of it is how do you want people to leave the event feeling, but also, diving into things like community. And, here's a great opportunity. I know you and I have a lot of fun together, and now we're hanging out in the community, joining some other friends, inviting them to the party and in a virtual kind of way. And so as she's talking about that, out of one of her series of 6 workshops, she was really hoping to see community. And, she saw some there, but didn't necessarily feel like it continued on. Talked about some other ideas there. But what is so fun is that even she in that moment realized how what we were talking about, she could translate to a live event she's doing in person.
Yeah.
And so we're continuing on that conversation. And actually, I'm helping her to make sure that she shows up in this event a little bit more prepared than she has in the past, a little bit more prepared to leave people with something that keeps them coming back, but also then continues to build her relationship with them, becoming that person that they say, she has a specialty in trauma healing. and she's got an amazing story and all that she's done. But what was so fun is to see, one, how, we can affect that virtual world, but this isn't new stuff in reality. It's stuff that applies to any event, whether it's virtual, it's hybrid, the live plus the virtual aspect, or whether it's in person. So super excited about what we've got going on there, and being able to take her event and take it up a notch and give her the support and confidence as she walks into that, because what she does is amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to share. So my I will say my week, but last weekend, I got on an airplane. I haven't been on an airplane obviously since March but I don't know how few months before that. But I flew to LA. I'm in this podcasting mastermind with some amazing people, JJ Flizanes and Doug Sandler. I'm going to give a shout out to you guys. And it was great. But it was like, okay, get in a lift, go to the airport, wear my mask, get on my plane, get to and by the way, Lyft, those guys they're going to charge themselves out of business because the prices were just freaking astronomical, but that's a whole nother story. But it was great. It was great to be in community with people. It was great to be in a room. It was great to awesome to get on a plane. And then I walked away with it. We in the meetings, we each had a chance to kind of talk about what was going on with us. And we have, those little poster boards with the big pieces of paper, and I wrote all over them. They're hanging all over my office, the stuff. Nice. So I'm kind of trying to implement and process what we talked about, because there's some major stuff going on. We're rebranding the podcast, and I'm really focusing on some new things. And anyway, so it was super awesome. So my share is one, like, it's okay. Well, for me, it's okay. I've talked about it. Like, I'm not gonna jump into the water all full bore with the cannonball. Like, I'm putting a little foot in the water, toe in the water, whatever. But I loved it. It was great. I got on a plane, wore my mask, did all the stuff we needed to do, hung out with people. So it was great to get out of the cocoon and do that. And then I love the fact that we all need mentors, and we all need help, and we all need people, and so it was an awesome experience. And now I'm reeling because I'm excited about all the new things I'm going to implement going forward. So
yeah, well, and that's fun because as you start talking about that, what has happened for me even this week is even a little bit more momentum behind some of the other things I've been working on. And so working on getting a course actually recorded, the one that I did in person, and not that takes the place of that in-person opportunity, because I think that the interaction was golden and magical.
Yep.
And so it's taking that to the next level, but it's the starting point. Here's the basics, and then we're going to have a conversation so that I can ask those questions, because I've been gifted with this keen ear to hear those little things that are said and say, well, you mentioned this. Let's go back and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And be able to pull out some of those. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. And take that to the next level. One of the things, just commenting on the Lyft deal, I actually ventured out of the cocoon a little sooner than you did, in that I went to Houston in April. Went and visited my son and 3 grandkids and his wife. And when I had the audacity to move to Florida, I moved to St. Augustine, which St. Augustine does not have an airport. I have a choice of 2 airports, Daytona or Jacksonville. So I flew in and out of Jacksonville, and I started looking at, because it's about an hour, and my flights weren't not necessarily the most time friendly for my in-home transportation guys. And so I went searching for transportation, and all the transportation companies were totally booked several weeks out. And it was, they couldn't get drivers at that point. I was at the airport, and And I even started, I've been looking for Lyft. We're finally just now starting to see Lyft drivers start showing up again in the area. I was at the airport, and I actually got the amazing blessing of being able to bless a couple college kids, because I was sitting outside. My son-in-law was on his way to pick me up, and these two college kids come down for the week. Their friends were supposed to come back up from St. Augustine and pick them up from the airport, but it's like, it's been a long day. We're tired. We're going to just send you, $10 each to get a Lyft. Well, they went in search of said Lyft, and there was no such thing at that point in time. So in April, you couldn't even find a Lyft driver to be able to give you a ride to go anywhere. So they were walking down the concourse. Is anyone going to St. Augustine? I said, well, I am. Is there any chance we could give you a little money for gas and get a ride to St. Augustine? I said, well, let me check in with my son-in-law. I don't want to commit him to something, but I know him well enough to say the answer is probably yes, but I'm not going to give you that answer till I ask. So in a couple minutes, he called me, and he was just a little bit out. And I said, hey, I met a couple college kids here. They're trying to go to St. Augustine. As it turns out, they were going, the place they were staying, the Airbnb they were staying at was about 1.5 miles from our house. So it wasn't as though it was even like this huge out of the way thing. It was over right next to my grandson's school. So it's a trip that, it's not that far away. So I said, hey, there's a couple kids asking if they can get a ride to St. Augustine. And they said they'll give us some money for gas. And he said, I don't want their money for gas. And I said, I know that. But he says, well, do they seem, are they scary?
They're not going to kill us, are they?
Yeah, it was kind of are they kind of, and as it turns out, they were both doing different kinds of water study, either oceanography, robotics, or the other one is doing the impacts of pollution on water or on the ocean. My son-in-law supports a software system that does water quality testing.
Yeah.
So there was this conversation going on in the car the entire way home of the one young lady in particular and what she was studying. He knew it all. And so it turned out to be this amazing thing. But to the point, there wasn't Lyft operators to even be found. So now they're starting to show up a little bit, and their prices are a lot higher because, one, they can't find them.
Yeah,
and
that's what the guy
now
said.
that they're starting to find them, and so you're right, it's kind of crazy. So
yeah. Well, and so I want to go back to what I was thinking when you were talking. We should all be looking at our events. If you were doing an online event, how do you do it online and offline? Meaning, how do you do it on computer and in person? Mm-hmm. If you're doing an in-person event, how do you do it in person and online? Because we just opened it up to why not, right? And
right.
The sky's the limit. And yeah, there's technology and all of that, but I just think it's really cool to start thinking about how we do the things that we've always done in a different way. So
yeah,
I want to bring
right.
Go ahead.
And that's what I think the pandemic has given us is that opportunity to start looking a little bit more creatively at what we do. Yeah.
So I want to bring back the conversation, or at least a teeny bit of it, that we had on the podcast. Earlene's on the podcast, my Breakaway Entrepreneur podcast this week, and we were talking about how we show up post-pandemic. And let's talk just a teeny bit about, how we how we get to reinvent ourselves. And that's a big word. So maybe it's how we just slightly embrace the things maybe that we don't like to do, but now how we can show up differently because we have the opportunity. People haven't seen us for 15 months. And so we have the opportunity to show up a little bit differently, embrace the things that we don't like to do or we don't think we're good at and all of that. I love that conversation that we had on the podcast this week.
Yeah, and I agree. And I was, as you say that, I was even having that thought as you go into that place of let me beat myself up a little bit over all of these things. And it was at that moment I had that thought of, wait a minute, I have a choice right now to choose to be different.
Yeah.
I can choose to not have that be who I am, how I show up, wherever. I have a friend that talks about how you do one thing's how you do everything. Okay, well, how do I want to be seen as I do that one thing as well as everything?
Yeah.
And so and I think that anytime we had that opportunity, but honestly, I think we are at the prime point where people know us one way, and we can now surprise them with who we now are.
Well, and it really planted a seed with me, Earlene, that I want to actually put some thought into, like, what are 5 areas? What are 3 areas that I want to show up differently? I love the word reinvent, but that's just such a big word. I'm not reinventing, but I'm just going to show up a little bit differently. And I wanted to not let it just go like, that's a great idea, but to actually put some action around it for me personally. And so to sit down and say, what are 3 or 5 things or ways or areas or places or whatever those words are for you that you're going to show up differently. Like, I'm showing up differently freaking live. Do you know how long people have telling me you're supposed to go live? And I've been live a couple of times, and I'm like, I don't want live. But I'm embracing it. I am the best at live. Even though it took us 18 minutes to figure out how to do it.
But that's one thing that we now know how to do. But the other part of that is it took us 18 minutes because there was one setup piece that we didn't have done yet.
Yeah. That
piece is taken care of. And so now we don't have to worry about it again.
Thank God for Google. Like, how do we figure it out? We Google it.
Exactly. It's like, oh yeah, I know how I found that. And
kudos.
It's a matter of getting to the place of being able to ask Google the right question. When you ask Google the right question, it gives you the right answer. And
I love what you said, because it happens to me all the time in all of my little technologies that I do, whether I'm like building something, an active campaign, or I'm doing, whatever, wherever it is. I've done it before. I just can't remember how I did it. Because you're like, I've done this before. I just don't remember where the option is. And so that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. But, that reminds me of a Henry Ford quote where, Henry Ford was thought to be illiterate and an idiot because he didn't graduate from high school. He had an eighth grade education, and he didn't know everything. It's like, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know who to ask.
Yes, right.
I have a whole bunch of other people that need to have the answer to my question. And so I think that, when we start thinking of it that way, then it frees us to be really good at those things we do know. And in those moments where we need a little bit of extra help, know who we can ask. Or in this case, how we can ask a question to Google and have it give us an answer we like.
Right.
I found the right question, right answer.
Yeah. There's no one knows everything, and there's no shame in I don't know the answer to that, but we'll figure it out. Well, it took us a few minutes, but we figured it out. Okay. I used to do these fun Fridays. I would do these. No, I think I recorded them on Instagram, and then I recorded them and then posted them. So I don't think I did live. But when I was telling you, I want to go back to do live again, I was just remembering my fun Fridays, and I was telling Earlene, what I used to do is I would come back from playing golf, usually 2 beers in, because my sister and I would have lunch and split a sandwich and have a couple of beers. I only had one today because, like I said, my nephew was there. But I would share a lesson from the golf course. And so I want to share mine from today. And I don't always have a lesson. Sometimes I have to dig deep. But as happens to all of us, whether it's golf or anything else, some shots are good shots and some shots are bad shots. And I've seen it in myself, and I was seeing it in my sister, because it happens to all of us. You hit a bad shot, or you hit a couple of bad shots, and then the wheels fall off and your game goes to shit, right?
Right.
And that I think that happens to us in business as well.
Right.
Right. So it's not about how good a golfer you are. Mm-hmm. It's how well you recover from that shitty shot, in my opinion. How well you can shank it off, or you can top the ball, or you can, miss the whatever. I hit a ball today. I was in the deep rough next to a tree, and I hit the ball like 6 feet, and it was still in the deep rough, because the deep rough and the tree. And I'm like, well, okay. But I walked up and I just like shook it off, and I'm like, okay. I didn't even take a practice swing, and I hit the bejeebers out of that ball. Because I was like, I'm not gonna let the setback, I'm gonna not let the shitty shot define my next shot.
Right. And I love that.
I think that that's something that in business, we got to shake it off. A client calls, right. I mean, during the pandemic, I don't know about you, I had clients calling me going, I'm putting you on hold. I'm putting you on hold. Putting you on hold. And I could have said, oh my God, I might as well just close the doors and, go put the covers over my head and call it done. No, I'm like, okay, that's fine. They'll be back, and they've come back. But it's how you recover from the adversity, in my opinion, is what makes us better at what we do, whether it's golf or being an entrepreneur. Okay, now I'll get off my soapbox, because I'm pretty excited about this subject.
Yeah, no, but as you say that, I think that, even getting back to that gratitude moment, it's like, thank you for giving me this breath of time that now I'm starting to do something different, because you did a whole lot of different stuff during that window of time when people said, okay, yeah, I got to put you on hold. And what that's done is that's put you in a whole different place, which is part of what gets back to that conversation of who are you today versus who you were 15, 16, 18 months ago. And for us, we can recognize that. And, when we're hanging out with people, we've been keeping up with them and seeing where they're evolving. But there's a whole bunch of people maybe we haven't been keeping as much of a close awareness of, who have also gone through the adversity and the conquering that adversity, and they're showing up in a whole different place, and they're a whole different person than they were before, which is why it's important for us to take that opportunity to make sure we're knowing who they are today, and conversely, making sure they know who we are today.
That's right.
Because it's that place where we're all in a very different place. And, it's pretty actually exciting that we can, it's all new beginnings for some people.
Have you experienced the group of people, and I'm talking more about colleagues than clients, but have you experienced the colleagues that stayed in the game, right? They continued to try to figure out what the heck we're going to do. They stayed Zooming and networking, and they stayed floundering or flourishing, and then the other people who just brought the carpet in, closed the doors, turned the lights off, and said, I'll turn the lights back on when this, no one, at least that I know, thought it was going to last 15 months.
Right.
But have you in your world seen kind of the people who just stayed present, and then the people who just disappeared and now are clawing their way back? Because that's what I see in my world. They don't have a clue, and they're literally coming out of the cocoon So have you seen that in your world?
Yeah, I've seen that in a couple different levels, and that's a little bit what brought around this conversation, to be honest with you, is that there are those who, I'm not doing Zoom. I don't care. I don't care if it takes me a lifetime. I am not getting on Zoom. End of conversation. Until there's a live event, you won't see me. And some of those are the ones who totally cut themselves off to the world of their business and all of the other things. Some of those, though, actually did go through some of that transformation.
Yeah.
so which is what caused the conversation around, we don't know if they haven't been hanging out with us. We haven't seen their progress, but we can't automatically assume they're still where they were when we last saw them.
Yeah.
And so there is the mix of those, but that's what's caused more of the conversation of, okay, we need to figure out where they're at today. Who are they? Are they the same person? If they are, then greet them where they're at, help bring them back into the fold, because there's a bunch of us who've been hanging out really consistently and regularly on Zoom. And quite honestly, we've, in many cases, developed deeper relationships.
Oh, yeah.
And because of the depth of those relationships, it's really easy to suddenly isolate those other guys who haven't been playing with us and leave them totally on the outside, as opposed to being there, warmly welcoming them in and helping them now come know the new us. And so honestly, that was the part of the conversation that really led to some of those thoughts that we were talking about a couple weeks ago even.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm still kind of trying to put my head around all of that. I mean, part of me is like, I'm moving forward, and if you're not, so part of me is still just kind of getting my head around all of that. And I'm talking about colleagues. When it comes to clients, I'm a business coach, so I have clients who were turtles, right? And I'm all there for helping them figure out how to come out of their shell. That's a different story.
It is.
But for fellow entrepreneurs who, you shared some thoughts that you had on helping someone look at things differently. I did the same with a number of my clients who had brick and mortar businesses that were shut down during the pandemic, and how can they continue to make some money even though they can't cut hair or do massage or all of that. So, I mean, there are people, and so I don't know. It's just been fascinating for me. We're still enough in it that I haven't really put my mind around it all. But it's just a study of the human psyche, I guess. Like, I don't want to, and I definitely don't want to go down that path because I don't know anything about that stuff. But it kind of is like who turtled and who ran like naked through the streets trying to figure out what the heck we're going to do, completely vulnerable, not knowing what the hell we're doing.
Right. And I think there's a different camp. I think there's the running naked through the streets, and then there's the sheltered but not sitting idle. They're just not opening themselves up to the world of what they're doing. And then there's the turtle.
And you and I are just naked running through the streets. And I can tell you over here, that's probably not a pretty picture, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right. So I want to, first I want to ask you, there's a hurricane coming. Is it coming towards you?
No.
Okay. I just know because of the that horrible condo thing, and they're talking about hurricane something or other coming, and anyway, so I just want to, now I have to worry about you because you're in hurricane land. So
yeah, this one is not coming towards us. St. Augustine is kind of northern Florida, is one of those areas, not that it doesn't get hit, but it's very infrequent.
Well, you said you were near Jacksonville, and I have an acquaintance whose son was in college in Jacksonville, and they got evacuated at some point. So anyway, we don't need to talk about the weather on here, but I was just curious to make sure that you are safe. So I want to share, because we're live, so this is like what's happening today, next week. Earlene and I are doing Clubhouse. Like, people keep telling us we gotta do Clubhouse. It's revolutionary. It's the new thing. And I'm not convinced it's the new thing, but I'm convinced enough that Earlene and I are showing up on that. So I will say, go find me. I'm Janet K. Fish on Clubhouse. Earlene, you're Earlene Coats on Clubhouse. Go find us on Clubhouse. Go connect with us. We are doing a weekly room, but we're playing with the time. So I don't want to give a time. I don't even want to give a date because we're kind of playing with that. So go find us. Our conversation is about, right now, it's kind of about how we are coming back from the pandemic, but it's about whatever you want to talk about, and it's all about how you grow your business. So I wanted to say that. We'll talk. I'll also mention we are doing a Zoom, twice a month Zoom party. It's called the Break Room Zoom Party. It's a bunch of entrepreneurs sitting around talking about their business. So you get to promote your business, meet other entrepreneurs. I will feature that on the Breakaway Entrepreneur podcast. So it's a great way to meet other entrepreneurs, talk about what's going on with you, and promote your business. So those are my scoop plugs. And then I'll say one more thing. The Breakaway Entrepreneur podcast, if anybody's listening, there's some big changes coming our way. So I'm pretty excited about that, but I'll leave it there. So those are my plugs. We're going to do a live. Those are my plugs for the evening. Earlene, I'm throwing it over to you.
Yeah. Well, and right now, what I am just so excited is the number of people that I'm able to help broaden their thoughts around their events. And so I am about to record my course that I actually do a live workshop as well. And so if anyone's interested in learning how to create unforgettable events and stepping through those 5 steps, and we can start even creating your event plan through those steps as I do the education side, but it's that opportunity to understand a little bit more of the thought that goes into it. And it's not just, if you're virtual, it's not just start a Zoom room. There's a little bit more to it. There's even, I've had multiple conversations around it's a small intimate group. I've only got 6 people. Well, reality is even 6 people, you have people hiding in the back of the room. So breaking them down even smaller for some small forced conversation starts doing a number of things when it comes to building community. So it's a lot of those conversations that we can actually have and help people either who haven't even considered a virtual event create that, or those who've done them and help them elevate them to the next level. And so I'm super excited about getting that course recorded and available for people who just want to take the course. I'm also excited to support others and be able to help them take their business to the next level. I'm able to figure out the technology because that's how my brain works. Not everybody is. So where I can take the mystery of technology out of it for everyone, then I love supporting the community that way.
Can I give a testimonial to you?
Absolutely.
No, you can't. All right. So thanks to JJ and Doug, my podcasting mastermind, they're like, what are we going to do to grow your audience? What are we going to do to engage? You're going to do an online summit. So I think it was March, January. I don't remember. I don't remember when it was, but it was January or March. I did an online summit. And so I forget, it was from 9 to 3 in the day. And I had, I think, 10 or 12 speakers. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, you just do that, right? And thank God I have a dear, dear, dear friend, Earlene. And she's like, well, no, I knew that you were helping people with Zoom. Mm-hmm. So I was like, can you help me with this? And you can be a featured speaker. And because, she didn't make me pay her. And I love that about her. Anyway, so I was just thinking all she's going to do is help facilitate in the background, which she did, and times 10 of what I thought needed to be done. We could go into the stories about my 7-minute. There's a funny story about the speaker didn't show, I was talking and I had 15 minutes. I only used 7 And then I'm like, okay, I have 7 more minutes. What am I going to do? Because I don't want to sit there talking about myself. Anyway, that's my 7-minute. Oh, my God. But here's what she did, which I didn't even think about. Before the event, she sat me down and she asked me those, like, she took me through that 5-step process. Like, who is your audience? What do you want them? What's your message? How do you want this? Like, all of these questions that all I thought was that she'd just be in the background, like letting people into the room, and no. Like, you could do that. And I knew I couldn't do it myself because I have to focus on trying to run this event, right? Mm-hmm. But it was so much more. And so if I had just hired someone to just let people in the room and monitor the chat, okay, that's great. But Earlene helped me make it a better event. Like, helped me and helped me because of that get people to opt in for what I wanted them to do so that I could ultimately make money from the event, right? Because that's why we do these things. So yeah, you can just do an event and throw it out there, or you could do it. So you could do the Volkswagen, or you could do the Mercedes, right, or the Bentley, and I just can't thank you enough, because you asked me. Like, I remember we sat down and you're asking me all these things. I'm like, I didn't consider any of this. You were amazing at that. And so if someone is just thinking about doing an event and think, oh, it's just someone to let people in the room and monitor the chat, hell no. It's a heck of a lot more than that. You bring so much more to the game and the conversation. And at the end of the day, you helped me make money from the event, because I wouldn't have had those things. I wouldn't have taken those things into consideration, which helped make the event and helped me take people through the process. So, yay!
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And
that's why I keep having you on the podcast over and over and over again. You have this great message, and you were amazing. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And, I loved what you did, and that your event was amazing.
It was good.
You had really powerful people there. And so how do you maximize and take advantage of that? Yeah. And that's the thing that I do. I have the gift of technology, but I also, for years, have helped hear the message that's not being spoken as well as the message that is. Yeah. And picking on that part of it as well. Yeah. So I'm gifted. It's not something that I do because it's all about me. It's a natural gifting that I've been given from God, and where I can use it and bless others, then that makes my day happier too.
Yeah, you definitely have a gift, and thank you for sharing it. All right, I would love to chat with you for way longer. I have 3 minutes until it's Friday afternoon of the 4th of July weekend, and I'm like, I got another call at 5. I do have Wine Women of Fair Oaks at 6, so I do have that. And we are missing you because you,
I know,
once again had the audacity to move.
I know. And I instead am going to go and be entertained or corral 4 young bodies.
Oh, good for you. You're babysitting, in other words.
Yeah, my daughter and son-in-law's good friends from California are here in town, and they have 2 children. As it turns out, as of 5 or 6 o'clock, was going to have either 5 or 6 children, and now I only have 4.
Yay!
Two of them went away, and so I've got the easiest, youngest part of the crowd, and so I do need to make sure that they're all still in the house. I learned that the adults left a little while ago and locked all the doors. So I'm guessing.
So they're wandering around somewhere. God knows what you're going to find when you leave. Anyway, Thanks for anybody who joined us live. We're going to try to do this every Friday for fun Friday Foolery, I like to call it.
I like it.
I'm letting my hair down, obviously, and I love sharing that. So thank you, Earlene. Thanks for being with me. I love you to death.
Thank you, and I love being here. So I also love you.